How valuable? MLG won't say exactly how much corporations like these pay to advertise, but the number last year was in the millions, and MLG is proud to say it's growing. At the forum, Pepsi kept the AMP energy flowing. In 3 days, they handed out thousands of cans of their new drink. A drink so filled with caffeine and sugar, the label clearly states not recommended for children. For corporations, it is a tricky world. Here, where players are assassins and touchdowns are kills, they know concern is rising over addiction and violence.
Tell me about your debut here at the Festival of Arcadia and what you expect.
The AMP boys have been schooled to soft-pedal the bloodshed in interviews, but even they sometimes forget.
I injure a lot of people, put the shields down, and then Leo will go in and clean up the kills. So he's kind of in the back, putting shots into people, letting us coming in for the easy kill. Can I say kills or, all right, or points?
You don't like to talk about killing.
Well, I mean it's
eliminating. It's taking down your opponent.
Killing.
okay.
It's when we take it down. In this game, it's not really so much killing. It's when we take down the opponent.
But you're not trying to tell me that there's not killing involved in here. I mean, you all got big guns and people are blowing up and dying.
I think that's where the parental rating comes into it. Like, I mean, the games that do have the violent aspect to it, that's why they are rated mature.
But you know that kids under the age of 17
kids
play
can't
this.
buy it under the age, so if they're getting it.
Well, they go to the tournaments and they play it under the age of 17.
But there's actually a parental consent form that you can't compete unless a parent allows you to.
It's true, in Montreal, kids under 16 did have to produce a parent's signature to compete. But online, there's no age limit and no police. Of Game Battle's most popular competition ladders, 6 out of 10 use M-rated games. We did a survey of the Call of Duty ladder and found that out of those who listed their age, the majority were teens.
It's no more violent than a cartoon on Saturday morning.
Matthew Bromberg says the average age of a Game Battles player is 18, which does of course mean a lot of younger players on his site are playing games the industry says they shouldn't be.
Well, we don't manufacture the games, and we're not raising the kids. What we're doing is creating the sport, and that millions of kids are really interested in. And
but retailers can't sell M-rated video games to children under the age of 17. So why should children under the age of 17 be welcomed into Game Battles to play those games?
I don't think it's our responsibility to make judgments on behalf of kids and their parents about what their kids ought to be doing. If we're running a tournament and the folks who make the video game don't want anyone to compete on under a certain age, then we would enforce that. But otherwise, no.
In Canada, the people who could enforce it, and say they do, are the manufacturers. Danielle Laboissière-Parr says her members have strict rules on marketing to kids.
Our industry does not put on these tournaments. So in terms of who has access to the site, etc., whether kids are coming to watch.
But you sponsor them and you reap the benefits from the advertising.
But the tournaments themselves, as I understand it, I don't know, what their practices are beyond what I've been told. That typically they are intended for adults.
There's an old saying: watch their feet. Not what they say, but what they do.
Industry watchdog David Walsh says for too long the gaming industry has been having it both ways.
They turn a blind eye to young kids being involved, encouraging young kids to get involved with games that aren't rated for them. It screams a double message.
So why are they getting away with it then?
Because no one's really called them on it yet.
When we return, did Brandon Crisp's dreams contribute to his death?
He was totally obsessed with it. He wanted to turn pro at it.
Hockey used to be Brandon Crisp's favorite sport until he discovered video games. When his parents finally pulled the plug, Brandon ran, leaving an entire community confused.
He's such a funny kid, but we were all talking about it, how we all kind of miss him.
In the weeks that followed, 16-year-old Nick didn't feel like playing video games much anymore. He rejoined life with his family and tried to get some perspective on what had happened.
He was a nice kid, and I knew him very well, as opposed to people who are stereotyping this kind of situation.
Nick has never talked about Brandon publicly before. He wanted to defend his friend against some of the things that were being said at the time. That he was a messed up kid with parents who didn't care. A boy who simply rebelled.
Some people really didn't even know what they were talking about personally, like, oh, this was all Brandon's fault, or it wasn't Brandon's fault. There's a lot of people that get sucked into that game. I could have been in the same situation as Brandon, or any of my friends could have.
Brandon's friends and family know that video gaming didn't kill him, but as they've learned more about his final days, they've come to believe that gaming was very much behind his decision to run. Brandon's gaming profile shows that Thanksgiving weekend was an important one for him. He was finally closing in on the top ranks of his Call of Duty competition ladder. There were only a few weeks left to play. He skipped school on the Friday to make an online match and had more matches scheduled. Then his parents took the Xbox away. For Brandon, not being able to play meant losing face, ranking, his ability to make a name for himself. In a world his parents now believe he was determined to try and join as a professional.
You know, Brandon was a kind of guy who was very smart, and if he could make money playing his favourite game, why wouldn't he?
Of course, that's a huge attraction for any child. To not have to leave your room to earn $100,000 a year and do something you love to do, I think we'd all like to do that as a full-time job.
And you can understand why he'd run down for dinner,
And
run
right
back up to his room,
Yeah.
and get back on the game and play in the middle of the night, and be so mad when I rip the thing out of the wall unexpectedly when he's in the middle of a game or a tournament.
It would be devastating for someone to be disconnected.
So what do you say to those who, organize these competitions and put up the money and
Well, it needs to be way more regulated than it is. Kids are out there, competing for money that are 13, 14, 10, they're under 18. It shouldn't be allowed.